Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Triumphant Strides. It's your boy Walls and your boy
AK.
Kra Kra Kra. Thank you so much for joining us again on this wonderful weekend. We hope you guys are doing well. We hope you guys are keeping well. It's been a minute since we last saw you.
Yeah.
No one is to blame. I wouldn't say. I think life. I always say this. I need to find need a ChatGPT an apology.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just want to apologize again for taking time off. I think the last time this happened, Amo did say that don't, take me saying it won't happen again with the grain of salt, because life happens. There's ups and downs to it, and I think we should probably preface and say that there's no guarantee that it won't ever happen again. But for the time being, we're here, so sit back and enjoy the episode.
Yeah, guys, like Wal said, thank you very much for sticking with us throughout this. Today is actually a very special episode, so for two reasons. One, it's been around about a year now. I think it was last week, but it's been a year since we started the podcast. So thank you everyone for sticking, the whole year. And I think well done to us, bro, for sticking with this for a year. And second reason, this is episode 21. And I think I did say this last time, but most people give up before they get to 21 episodes. So despite it taking us a year, because if you look at it, it should have been 21 weeks, right?
Yeah, actually,
it should have been 21 weeks,
done,
but we're still here. Regardless of it taking a year or whatever, we're still here. So I think, again, that's also well done to us, and just, I think, a reflection of what the pod is, what we're trying to do. It's not perfect strides, it's triumphant strides. We're still making that progress. We're still growing. This is our first time doing this, so we're still figuring it out as we're doing it, and we're here, and we're still gonna go. So I think that's a nice little special episode, and I think can kick off from there, really.
For sure. I think we can kind of then use this as a reflection episode, I guess, like on the past year, what it's meant for us, what it's meant for Triumphant Strides, like biggest takeaways, things that maybe we believed in the beginning that have changed, maybe. I guess I'll start off.
Okay.
I want to ask you and say to you, like, in terms of your, I won't specify to work ethic. I'll just say in terms of your life, right? And I'll pay this in even with your birthday coming up soon. Not soon, but soon. Is how much do you think you've grown? And the answer can be, How much do you think you've grown? I'll just leave it at that.
Too much. I think I've grown too much. Yeah, and I say that it's a very weird place I'm in right now, because I know I've made so much growth, and I think I touched on this last episode, but looking at it from a surface level, there's not much growth you can actually see. I think it's been a lot of internal, underground, behind closed doors growth, which is now about to start showing. But I think in all facets, more so emotionally, and I'll touch on that as we speak. But I've really grown a lot, I think, from all the failures, which are lessons though, but all the failures that I've come across in the past year. Biggest ones being, my business. I think I've learned a lot from my business, and again, emotionally, it really tested me. It really needed me to dig deep. I went through phases and periods where I was close to giving up. There's episodes where you can go back and I said, giving up never even crossed my mind, and it got to a point where it actually did, and that was a very scary point, because it's like, if I'm able to think of giving up, like, what does this mean about? And I started, going into that rabbit hole. So I think more than anything, emotionally, I've really grown a lot. By that I mean, perseverance. I think I've shown a lot of that. I think I've gotten a much better understanding of the word just slipped my consistency. The importance of consistency, and to tie it into what we're even doing on this pod, like, I've seen that the things that we speak about, the things that we try to learn and we try to help others see as well, don't stop applying when the camera goes off. It doesn't stop applying when something works out. It doesn't stop applying when I feel bad or when I feel good. I think I've rewatched a lot of the episodes we've done, a lot of things we've said, and I've seen myself actively not doing the things I should be doing, and suffering from the consequences, and not doing anything about it, and so I've really, really gone through all those emotions, and I'd even, maybe not rock bottom, but I got really, really close to that point where I didn't want to see myself regress back to. You know, I've seen that it can get bad again, you know, and that's the growth I've had to make, understanding that just because I've worked so hard to get to where I am now doesn't mean that if I stop doing the work, it's impossible for me to go back there. I still have to actively work on myself, on the journey, on everything. So yeah, bro, I think that's the growth.
Who would you say like has played the most important role in helping you like grow?
And helping me grow, first answer is always God. And something that I also fell off on, something that I also slacked on, you know. So I think biggest answer is always God. And just to put out there, my view of God, it's both a religious and spiritual. So God as higher being, but then also God being, higher being also including myself, and that I have the power to do X, Y, Z, right? So yeah, so one, it's always, I always have to be, and God always has to be the first person that helps the most and will always help me the most. And then more external environment, I think, yeah, you, my mom, my girlfriend. I think the past year, you, my mom, and my girlfriend have been the biggest help in terms of the things that I spoke about and that growth. Yeah.
I mess with that, bro.
Yeah, bro. And like I said, I'll touch on, you know, everything as we keep going. But on your side, how has the past year, what kind of growth have you seen in the past year?
Yeah. Yo, dude, I guess like physically, like literally physically, I guess.
You look good.
No.
Very good.
Shout out my dog. Yeah, I guess like physically, you know, seeing progress in the gym, and being able to like hit my goals in that sense, you know, have benefited me a lot, you know. And I don't think that a year, maybe just over a year ago, I don't think I could have ever seen myself like dedicated to my physical health as much, you know. So I think in terms of that, and it branches off into like the even bigger aspect of like caring about your health and taking care of yourself, right? Especially the older we get, bro. Like we're not pushing 30, but we're on our way to 30 soon.
The age does come.
Yeah, you know, and our metabolic rate starts to slow down. You know, you need to be wary of like the activity that you're doing, the things that you eat, etc., etc. I guess it's kind of helped me grow to be like a way more responsible person, of like taking care of myself, being an adult, of like conscious, like, okay, you know, when my mom was telling me like eat your veggies, you know, between like 8 and it's like 16, maybe even 18, you're like, oh, nah, that's nonsense. And then you revert back, and now you're like in the same position as your parents. And it's like, you see the value in that, you know? So I'd say, yeah, in terms of responsibility of taking care of myself, like, yeah, gym wise, food wise, I think I've grown a lot in that aspect. Knowledge wise as well, I think I've learned so many things from so many different like outlets and so many different people and conversations with people and podcasts and books and all of these different resources, you know, at my disposal. I know way more now about how the world works, about myself, about the people around me, about how to read people, about how to execute on certain things. That as a whole to my entire life have been very conducive, bro. So I think those are like the two biggest ways. And then of course there's like, yeah, I've grown up, you know, I'm more responsible. But I think my physical health and my knowledge are the two things that have been like the most important or the most standout things that I've grown in. You know,
I hear that. In terms of the physical, what is it do you think you attribute to that growth? So obviously I know you've physically seen, you know, the result, you've been bigger, but is it the consistency aspect of it? Is it the just that desire of I can even go 3 times a day to reach a goal? You know, what part of that physical growth do you think you...
Well, so like the thing is, you kind of have to be careful with it, is because there's only so much working out that you can do before it becomes pointless and you're actually harming your body, right? So I think more so not like how many times you can go a day, but making sure that you go once a day. So consistency, I think that's the key thing. And a lot of the times, bro, you hear all of these things and they start to sound cliche, but you actually find that they're true. That's actually how the world works. Like, you being disciplined towards a goal will actually help you achieve the goal. Being consistent in the gym will actually help you achieve certain things in the gym, you know. So yeah, being consistent and being disciplined, so in terms of like the food that you eat, because I think that was the thing that actually made the results a thing, right? Because we started gymming in like 2017,
Yeah,
like
as
when we were
kids,
kids, bro,
yeah.
you know. But now imagine if we were on like a proper diet at the
And
age
we
of
stayed consistent.
at the age of
Yeah.
15. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like imagine if we were on that and we had the consistency and discipline and even knowledge actually to understand of like, yo, this is what gains has to this is what it takes to get gains.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, more specific to the podcast, right? Because one thing that I always laugh about is we come on here and we're like, hey, sorry for being inconsistent. But I think in everything else, I think we're very consistent, you know, in the other facets of our life. So what have you learned from taking on this podcast, from doing this? Because I think with both of us, we have our core major things we're doing, you know, career-wise and, you know, with our lives. And we both agreed that we do have that spare time to, you know, take on this other project. But yeah, what have you learned from this? From, like, we've seen, okay, we haven't been consistent, so maybe is that why we haven't seen as much growth? And, you know, I've seen, like, you know, you've seen how you apply yourself to other things, and just what have you learned from the year of taking on this podcast?
Yo, actually, so I must say something first because you sparked the idea of it.
Yeah.
But like in terms of, oh no, I lost it now. Okay, but I'll answer your question and I'll circle back to it. But I think for one thing is like time management. Oh yeah, I remember. It was like a hierarchy of things. It's like we like you said, we have a hierarchy of things that come first, right? So, not that we don't care about you guys, but like, so for example, I'm sure with you, it's like school, business, and then like family. Like I'm just assuming. Let me say it for myself. Then you say yours. So mine would be like school, and business. Like they're pretty much on the same par. Then it would be my family. No, that's not right. I'm not gonna put it in any specific order. It's my schoolwork, my business, my side projects, my family. Those are like the things that like consume my time the most. And then any spare time, like breaks that I have in between like lectures, are for this, right? But even though that's the case, and there is like this hierarchy of projects or important spheres of life, is like going back to this like time management, bro. Like of like, yo, okay, I'm like, dude, we have 30 minutes or we have like 45 minutes to like film real quick, you know, or learning how to speak comfortably in front of a camera, in front of a mic, you know. I feel like when we eventually get to the point where you're giving a keynote on, I won't say what your business is about, but on that, you know, on how to exit a deal, or when I'm giving a keynote about such and such, these things are conducive, or this podcast is helping us a lot in that aspect. So I think there's a lot of short-term things that it's helped us with, and a lot of long-term ones that will only pop up later, you know. But I can say, for example, with like speaking, I feel like I'm very well spoken in settings of like large people, or when interacting with people, you know. And I think a large part of it is dedicated to this, bro.
I like that.
And yourself? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you did.
Okay.
For sure.
Maybe I'm rambling. But yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, like you said, time management would be the most obvious, biggest thing, you know, like that can be taken from us not posting consistently, you know, time management. So I think that's obviously one. And to touch on what you said with the speaking, I think something that it's also helped me with, and that I've learned is, and I'm not sure who I heard say this, but the reason why you'd be nervous before doing a speech or nervous before doing anything is because you're not prepared.
Was it Alex Hormozy?
Probably.
You're
telling me, okay, yeah. Alex Hormozy. And you're not prepared, right? And I sort of applied the same thing coming to speak here. I'm like, it feels odd for me to get here and try to speak about something that I haven't experienced, something I don't know, something I feel like that's where you'll hear my ums and filler words and diversion of whatever, you know. So I learned that, okay, for me to give a proper presentation of anything, to speak, to feel confident, I need to be prepared, you know. And the podcast has helped in that. I saw that even a 10-minute preparation before you get here makes a difference, and I started taking that into my other things. Like just a 10-minute prep before you do this will make so much more of a difference, before a meeting, before whatever it is. So I think it's really helped me just in terms of preparedness, is if that's the word. And
sorry, just on that quickly though, but like, for example though, the reason why I say it's helped though with like public speaking is based on what you're saying now. I hate to break it to you guys, but we didn't have anything planned for this episode. We literally, like when I said, "Hi guys, welcome back," 30 seconds before that, me and him were like, "Okay, we'll do this and this."
Yeah.
And from us, like I'm sure I can't speak for other people and like observing, but I feel like we're doing really well of like being well spoken, even though we weren't necessarily prepared. So I'm just saying that to add to your point of like sometimes though when you've curated the skill of being able to adapt to situations, which this podcast has helped us in many different ways, those things just become easier. I'm not saying don't be prepared. I'm not saying that at all.
I'd like to counter that.
Okay, sure.
I think you know how to prepare. You now know how to prepare, or your process of preparing, that you can do it subconsciously. When I texted you and said it's 1 year, we could speak about that. My mind, even though I was studying, I was doing this, could have subconsciously, I was thinking, what could we be doing?
Okay,
and
sure,
you as well.
yeah.
We knew, like maybe you didn't plan we're gonna speak about it's been 1 year, this has happened, but you knew we're gonna roll with that. You had an idea with that, and from there, I think you were quickly able to blueprint. You know what I'm saying? But look, like you said, it maybe is not how you did it, but I think maybe for me, it's a subconscious thing now. Oh, I can't do this.
No, I agree with you completely. Yeah. But go on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay, yeah, and I think the podcast biggest thing, actually the biggest for me, is a big look in the mirror. It's been, and that's what you and I created for, a time vault, which also benefits others, but a way for you and I to look back at the things we've said, where we were, and how we interpreted those lessons, how we move forward, what we did with our lives in this current stage and moving on. So like I said, I go back and I watch where I was, what I've said, and one thing that I always look at when I rewatch this is the conviction I have when I say something. Because if you watch the episodes, it changes, there's certain things, and even yourself, like there's clips when I'm editing, I'm like, yeah, this is a good clip. The conviction you have, and that's what I look for, because those are the moments when I was being so true to what I was saying, regardless of how tired I was, what was going on, the way I said it, and the way I flow through it. It's almost like I had practiced it, but I hadn't, and that shows to me that was my real life circumstance, not just something I read or picked up so I could try and say for the camera. That was my real life circumstance, and I want to be there. So I think, for me, it's been a very nice look in the mirror to see, have I progressed? What issues am I still facing that I said I was facing before? And I think those are the three that...
Do you think any of those things would be could have been nurtured if you didn't start the podcast? Like, where else do you think those things would have been nurtured outside of this?
No, I think 100%, bro. I think part of growing, part of this journey, those things are going to happen. I think there's just different mediums and ways which those things, come to each of us. And I'm sure I had ways before. This is what I'm saying, like with the self-reflection, it's just self-reflection, and being prepared. It's like we study for tests, I think there's a lot of different things. But for me, the podcast, and maybe because even I'm doing it with you, so I have an accountability partner. Sure. So maybe it's just that I do it more often, that it became learned skills. But I don't think it had to be the podcast. I think those skills are ones that are important and to be learned regardless. But for me, it made it a lot easier, and the proof is here. Like, I have the video of myself saying it, so
I mess with that. All right. I have one more question for you before we close it off.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a vulnerable one, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But what would you say then? Because we spoke about all the growth and all the positive things. But what would you say is the biggest regret that you have in the last year, if you want to get into it?
Podcast specific or my life? Just
you choose. But I was saying in general.
Okay. Biggest regret. My biggest regret, actually, this is very vulnerable. So I did touch on, how I have been slacking even on my spiritual, religious side over the past year, and that's where I saw as well that I wasn't my best self. And the regret in that is I got to a point where I don't know if the word is being cocky but I started taking granted or taking credit for the work that, okay, that's gonna be a weird phrase, but say I work now, say you've been gymming, right? You did all this work, and now let's say in 2 years you're big, you have the body you want, and now you think it's okay for you to slack, to just waste that body as if the old Welile didn't put in all that work, So I got to a point where things were working, things were good. I said, of course and I stopped thinking so much about the hard work that went into those things. I just saw the fact that I have them, that I'm here, and I didn't appreciate the work, the sacrifices that I made to get there, and therefore I got in my head. I felt big for nothing when I had nothing. So that it was a big slap in the face. I saw that, oh, you're gonna have to do it again. Like, that's what I was saying. You're gonna have to do the work again. You undid it, so do it again.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean just because you suffered before, you won't have to suffer again, because now you thought that you're bigger than life, So yeah, my biggest lesson, I think, was getting or feeling too big for my shoes, and learning the hard way that I'm not, and I had to be humbled. I had to be humbled, and yeah,
that's interesting. That was kind of like, for me, like the offsetting side of
Yeah.
things. Like, so not necessarily thinking it happened now, but it happened before everything else. So like, I think I've spoken about this before, but like, going off of like one really good and honestly lucky investment into crypto, and being like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna be fucking successful, I'm rich, like I don't give a fuck about anything, like yeah. And like life catching up and being like, yo, like, okay, so now what? Like, the market is gonna correct, boom, you're gonna lose a little bit of cash, like just all of these things, like same thing, humbling experience. But no, I mess with that though. I mess with that.
Your side, if you wanna get vulnerable like that.
Biggest regret, dude. I don't know. I have too many, which isn't a good thing to say, but like, I don't know. I think I regret not. I regret only starting to take learning curves, more seriously, like in the last like 4 months, rather than when I first started out. Because I feel like if I started looking at what am I supposed to learn from this mistake, and not necessarily like, okay, let me change and go on to this, and like focusing so much on like building from like trying to pursue a new avenue, rather than learning like what the issue was with the past mistake. I think, like I said, like I'd be 4 months forward from where I am right now, so. And I don't think that was like a cocky thing. I think it was just a thing of like, it was my first time starting anything, like starting a business, and but the whole idea of learning curves has been highlighted to me, because like I say, I've delayed, and I'm very like unsatisfied with the fact that, with the idea, I can't confirm for sure that like if I did focus on those learning curves in 4 months ago, that I'd be 4 months ahead. But just logically thinking about it, like if whilst from a year ago or a year and 4 months ago, whatever the maths is on the time, actually was like, yo, let me actually take learning curves seriously, then I would be way more ahead, and that renders me unsatisfied with where I am right now. But we've spoken about this before, that will probably be a feeling until I retire, bro. So yeah, I'd say that's probably one of my biggest.
Okay, I like that. And just to touch on that as a last point, I don't know, I know something about that just sparked something in me, that we speak about how failures and mistakes are lessons, right? And I think I've also found myself doing this, maybe not exactly what you were doing, but fine, here's the mistake, I know there's a lesson to be learned, but I'm so caught up on I have to learn the lesson that I don't learn the lesson. I just come up with something that seems like it's the lesson, or it's good enough to, what I'm saying, that this is probably the lesson, so let me just do this,
like,
and
you're
then
falsely informed because like you were rushing it, or you're trying to move on to the next thing.
So not
100%.
actually learning the lesson. I like that. I think that's an important thing that maybe we haven't even, I don't think we've touched on really, that you can make the mistake, you find a lesson but not learn the lesson, and then it'll come back. So
I mess with that.
I like that. I like that.
For sure. Yeah, guys.
Okay, well, guys, this is 1 year of triumphant strides. Like we said, thank you so much for sticking with us. Thank you for tuning in every week we do post. And yeah, guys, we're just here to be honest with you. This is a look into our journey, and hopefully help you on your journey. And yeah, thank you so much. Like we said, we'll try to be consistent, and you know where to find us. YouTube here, subscribe, like, comment, and check you next week, maybe.